30 years after the adoption of the Declaration of the Rights of the Child, the United Nations has given the global community an international instrument of high quality, protecting the dignity, equality, and basic human rights of the world's children.
On that November 20th, 1989, the world had a dream: to guarantee the rights of children. The United Nations was determined to tackle the issue of child labour. On the very day the convention was signed, 200 million children around the world could be counted as part of the market of innocence. 10 years later, and despite this convention, international organisations now record over 250 million working children, 500 million small hands in the service of the global economy. Nine years ago, the former heart of the Ottoman Empire employed child labour systematically. 3 million children were being exploited in Turkey at that time. We met Mehmet in a leather jacket workshop in Istanbul. He was 12 years old and worked 12 hours a day for $15 a month. It was a tedious job in a constant odour of glue.
How old were you when you left school?
11 and a half.
Did you like school?
It was good, but now it's better because I'm working. I'm learning a job and I'm earning a little money.
Mehmet came from a working-class family and lived with his parents in the Istanbul suburbs. He had 2 brothers, Ali and Olcay. Thanks to Mehmet's wages, they were able to continue their education. 9 years later, we went back to find Mehmet's family. Ali, the youngest, is today 18 years old. Mehmet is now in the army for 2 years military service far away from home. He frequently telephones his family.
Alo.
Hello, Mehmet. How are you?
İyi, sağ ol. Sen nasılsın?
We're all fine.
İyiyiz.
We're
ne
at
yapalım
home,
işte, evde
talking.
oturuyoruz burada, muhabbet ediyoruz.
Mehmet is serving in a commander unit at Hakkari in Kurd territory on the Iraqi border, an area forbidden to Westerners. It was impossible to meet him, but over the phone he told us about his life since 1989.
I worked in leather goods. I got engaged, lots of things happened, and then there was the army. I'm happy with my life. Of course, there are things that bother me, like the fact that I haven't got any university qualifications, so sometimes I regret that.
Do you feel you made sacrifices for your brothers by working rather than going to school?
No, that they go to school and get to a certain level, that's the most important thing for me. They don't owe me anything, and we help each other out, whatever happens.
Mehmet plans to marry when he leaves the army. He hopes to have children whose futures will be very different from his own.
I hope that they will go to university, and that they won't just have a primary school diploma, like me.
Mehmet's elder brother Olcay is 21. He's a university student at Eskişehir, 100 kilometers from Istanbul, and is taking a degree in human resources. Olcay knows that without Mehmet's hard work, his future would have been very different.
I wouldn't say it was the best way, but thanks to him and the money he made, we had what we needed. With his money, we took care of the house, and with my father's money, I was able to study. Of course, I have a debt towards him, and obviously he's meant a lot to me. Without him, I wouldn't be where I am today. I'll never turn my back on him. I owe him something.
For Olcay, his studies mean a secure future, and later on, whether they want to or not, his own children will follow in his footsteps.
How would you react if your children said one day that they didn't want to go to school anymore?
Maybe my parents accepted that, but personally I wouldn't. I'd say to them, you have to study. I'd explain that I had learned the value of studying, and that was why I had succeeded.
10 years ago, success was also the aim of Ali, the youngest brother. He was then in 2nd grade, and school was all that counted.
I want to continue my studies.
You don't want to work?
I want to go to school like my big brother.
What will you do after?
When I've got my diplomas, I'll be able to choose whatever job I want.
Yes, but if you work, you earn money.
In my opinion, it's better to go to school than to a workshop.
Do you think you're smarter than your brother because you go to school and he goes to a workshop?
Yes, because I'll be able to choose afterwards.
Ali wanted to go to university, and yet he left school last year without taking his final exams. Since then, he's been working as an odd job man in an Istanbul tourist hotel. But he has no regrets.
9 years ago, I didn't think I'd do that. But for the moment, I'm happy to be here. It's no different from other jobs. The most important thing is to work.
How did Mehmet react when you stopped school?
Mehmet's always talked to me. And it was the same then. He said it's your life. It's in your hands. You're the one who makes your own future.
Aware that Mehmet sacrificed himself so that he could go to school, Ali has decided to resit his exams and is taking evening classes after work. After that, he's hoping for a place at the police academy to become a commissioner. For Ali, his brother did not have the same childhood he did.
I don't think he had a childhood. He never stopped working. Of course, in some ways, he wanted that. But I think he has some regrets. He's never told me that. But he didn't live like a normal child. He didn't live like us. He never went out to play. All he did was work. For the moment, he's in the army. And all I can do is call him and ask him how he's doing. I write to him. I don't leave him on his own. Obviously, that's all I can do for the moment. But when he comes back, I'll help him out. Just like he helped me. Mehmet's my whole life. He's my blood.
A family dinner. Ali is the last of the three to live at home.
Do you think your three children have the same chances in life?
For the moment, they're the same. But later on, you never know. Ulkay seems to have more opportunities because he's studying. We'll wait until he's finished university, and we'll see then. You can never tell.
In 9 years, the child labour situation in Turkey has evolved. In 1989, an employer couldn't hire a child under the age of 13. Since 1998, the legal age of employment has risen to 16, the same as the school leaving age. In reality, the law is hardly ever applied. Hundreds of children still run away from school to work in the streets of Istanbul, shining shoes, selling mussels, doing whatever jobs they can find. Turkey signed the International Children's Rights Convention in 1995. It is a long way from being respected. Bayram is 13 and a half. He's been working since he was 10 and now makes trouser buttonholes. For 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, Bayram earns about $160 a month. The average worker in Turkey takes home $200 a month.
In our family, our mother has to stay in the country and we have to work here. And because we're a bit poor, I have to work.
Would you like to study if there weren't these difficulties?
Of course I would.
In the same street, 12-year-old Mikhail works in a garment workshop. 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, ironing skirts for $85 a month.
Was it you that wanted to work?
No, it was my family.
Would you rather have gone to school?
Yes.
Why did you want to study?
To be a great doctor.
What do you think you can be now?
I can be a machine operator.
Do you hold it against your family for making you work?
Yes.
You bear a grudge? Do you prefer school?
Yes.
Do you think you'll hold it against them later? Of course.
When I get older, I'll resent it even more.
This workshop has 10 employees, including 2 minors. Mikhail's boss, Ahmed, who himself was an underage worker, has no qualms about hiring child labor.
You began to work young?
Yes, I began when I was 12.
Were you forced to?
Yes, I had to because of financial problems at home. I was obliged to work. Like these children working for me, I began as an apprentice. That was 25, 26 years ago, and I'm still working.
Is it legal in Turkey to make children work?
No, it's not. But the children are obliged to work. They need to. Their families have problems. They have to work because they haven't got enough money. So, I employ them.
Do you think you could stop work and go back to school?
No.
Why?
If nobody helps us, I can't.
If somebody helped you, would that work?
Yes.
Would your family allow it? Sure. Isn't it tiring for someone your age to work 11 hours a day?
Sometimes.
What do you do when you go home at night?
When I get back in the evening, I go to bed. In any case, my legs hurt.
Mikhail, Bayram, Mehmet and the others have no childhood memories other than of work. And yet, modern-day Turkey still appears to value the words of Kemal Atatürk. The nation that does not make its children study is condemned to die. Austerity has not proved Turkey's founder to be right. Poverty and tradition are still dominant. But who is to blame? If we leave the shores of the Bosphorus and head across the English Channel, we can see that even within the European Union, certain economies are still reliant on the work of children.
The convention is, in practice, one of the most widely accepted international legal instruments of them all, and in that, it's a recognition of the fundamental justice of giving real rights to children. The problem, of course, is that we know that those rights are often ignored and often abused, and I think for us now, the 10th anniversary, yes, is a celebration of this important convention. It's also a time to take stock and say, how do we put into practice, how do we make real the paper rights and deliver them to the children whose rights are being eroded?
In England, school and its traditions are the cornerstones of most children's daily lives. School has been obligatory until the age of 16 since the 1970s. But this does not prevent many young British children from working as well as studying.
Right, first of all, we'll talk about hours of people's working part-time jobs. How many of you have got a part-time job? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 out of about 30.
It is also common practice in this class of 12 and 13-year-olds.
Can you put your hands up, please, and tell me how many of you have part-time work? And I mean proper work for which you are paid. Let's see, what do you do?
I work on a sweet store.
When?
On Saturdays and whenever I can work.
Do you work all day Saturday? 8 hours on a Saturday?
No, from 6 in the morning till 6 at night.
That's 12 hours on a Saturday. Jonathan, where do you work?
I do a Birkenhead news round on a Wednesday. It's a free local newspaper.
What sort of work do you do?
Sell books on the market in Sherbrooke in Liverpool.
For the first time, and because of our presence, the question of work was raised in this class.
All right.
The teacher was very surprised to learn that a number of his pupils had a part-time job outside school.
I mean, we've got laws in this country that's supposed to protect children from working in the way some of them are working. I think the babysitting on a Friday night, I think, is okay. You're in somebody's house, you're safe, you're secure. But some of the other jobs seem to me to be very long and very poorly paid. In Britain today, somewhere between 2 and 3 million children are working.
40% of whom are between the ages of 10 and 16. For the most part, children who are still at school. Martin has just turned 12, but already has a job in his local hardware store. 12 is below the minimum legal age, which in Britain is fixed at 13. But like Martin, 25% of working children are underage. Martin lives not far from his school in Woodchurch, a far from prosperous part of Birkenhead, across the Mersey from Liverpool. In Martin's school, 30% of the families live off social security benefits. It's not uncommon for the local children to have a part-time job to help the family. Martin works for an hour every evening after school and all day Saturday.
You gonna clean your fish?
Martin's been working here for 9 months now. He likes the fact that the hardware store is also a pet shop. Today is Saturday. He arrives at 9 and will stay until closing time at 5. Martin is now almost a friend of his employer's family and sometimes goes away with them for the weekend.
What's your job here, Martin?
I've got to
Just to tidy up and that.
It's got the slope.
With the animals.
What else?
One of them.
Stock shelves.
Why do you like it? Explain to me.
I love animals.
Is it good to have a job?
Yeah.
Why?
Keeps me off the streets. Keep me out of trouble. Nick, what are you using this Richard box for? Richard knows.
Tell us how you got the job, Martin.
I just kept coming in. No, since it's opened, just kept coming in. Last year, I think someone told me to do something, and I just started in the back, and then I came out here.
So you're doing more and more things.
Yeah.
More responsibilities in a very short time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Martin now serves the customers directly. Everybody knows him and appreciates his efficiency. Nobody's surprised to see him working there, and his boss finds it hard to consider him as a fully fledged employee.
Would you say that what he does is just a kid's job, or it's something that has to be done anyway in the shop?
It's something that has to be done in the shop anyway. I mean, if he wasn't doing it, we'd have to do it.
Can you write him on the books like for other employees? Or
Martin couldn't work on us for an official basis because obviously he's under age, isn't he? There's a difference between actually working and helping, whereas Martin only comes in and helps. Even though what he does is a great help, we still have to check, make sure that he's safe at all times.
So it's not really work, you're saying?
It's not really work, no. Well, we don't think so, and he doesn't seem to think so.
And if the police come in and that thing, I'll come at me. Nick or Julie just save them their kid.
Just a helping hand for the family, but it's still hard work.
What's the most difficult about your job?
The bags, because they're dead heavy. It's like stone you have to carry. It says there, 25 kilograms. Oh, it's heavy.
Is that too much for you?
No, I can't carry them but sometimes I don't feel like it. And when I have to do it, I do it.
85 for each on all your toys. Put them up in your order.
Martin may already have the storeman's job off pat, but he does not have a regular wage. £1 after school and between £2 and £6 for 8 hours on a Saturday. His boss decides according to the amount of work they have to do.
That one's yours. We don't give him too much money because we don't feel that too much money for a child his age. We don't want him going out smoking and stuff like that. And he's always happy with the money he gets. Aren't you, Mart?
Yeah.
Martin has 2 brothers, Craig the youngest and Stephen the eldest at 15. His mother is recently separated and is raising 3 children on her own. She's on sick leave and not currently working.
What are the main sources for you of income?
Social Security. That's the only income I'm on at the moment.
So is it quite good in this country when you have 3 kids?
No. No. Rubbish.
Is it?
Yeah.
Not enough?
Definitely not enough. Not for what a 15 and a 12-year-old wants. Because you're talking about £70 and £80 for a pair of trainees.
Martin's decision to work was motivated by financial needs. His own, of course, but the family's too.
Did you think you had to bring money for the family as well?
Just like if my mum needed money for the house or something, isn't it?
For what, for example?
For like clothes and that, isn't it? Dopey and fluffy.
In England, a job is regarded as part of the learning process, and Martin feels valued and respected.
Before I had this, no one trusted me with nothing. Since I've been with this, when I've been helping in the shop, people that know me very well trust me. Like Nick said, you know, when we were in the shop, like he could trust me with money and everything.
Is that important to you?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Martin's brother Stephen leaves for work too.
Yeah.
He has an evening paper round.
Bye. Ciao.
So I'm proud of both of them because they're actually doing something instead of just hanging around the streets, getting into trouble and, you know.
It's not just kids from the poorer families who work in Britain. Certain jobs are reserved just for children, whether they're from poor neighbourhoods or middle-class suburbs. Across the country, and before the school bell rings out, children rush off to their local newsagents for an hour's work delivering the daily press.
1 or 2 miles.
It's not really hard work. They have to get up early in the morning, of course, but they seem to enjoy it. I mean, I've got a list of about 20 names waiting for jobs now, and it's a labour market that newsagents can afford, because the customers, although they want the newspapers delivered, they don't like to pay a great deal for the service.
So is it cheaper to pay teenagers than if you had to employ adults?
We pay the paper boys £18 a week. That's for 7 days, 7 mornings, 6 evening rounds. And I don't think we would get an adult to do that for less than £35, £40.
Twice as much. And yet this is an essential service. Without a home delivery service, most British newsagents would soon be out of business. And so, rain or shine, the children walk the streets at dawn to make sure their elders have a paper on the breakfast table. Sometimes it's as early as 6:30, even though the legal limit is 7 o'clock.
What do you have to put on for the milk round, Andrew?
Warm clothes, because it gets cold in winter. Some days when it's really cold, and you know, when you like pick your milk up to put it in the tray, they go all red and sting.
Why did you decide to take a job, basically?
Just for money, really. Because I always get money off my mum. And she like said, you got to start earning your wage.
Is that him?
Yeah.
It's 3:30 in the morning, and like every Saturday, Andrew's employer picks him up on the way to the dairy. Andrew is 13 years old and has been doing this job for just a few weeks. He's not the only child working at the dairy. It's a common part-time job in Britain. The milkmen work independently and often need a low-cost helping hand. For almost 5 hours, Andrew delivers the fresh milk to the neighbourhood's doorsteps. For him, it's a Saturday or a holiday job, because he realised it was too tiring during the week. But some of his classmates do the milk round every morning before school. Andrew is paid £10 for the round. He gets on well with his employer, who happens to be a family friend.
A good little lad. I like his company. A lot of it, you know, it helps me get round quicker, but because we get on so well as well. But towards the end of the round, his eyes are he's falling asleep.
Thanks to Andrew's help, the milkman saves 4 hours on his round. In the rain and cold of winter, working conditions are particularly difficult and even dangerous for a child Andrew's age. But the employers don't seem overly concerned.
When I first started, I didn't really know about the legislation myself, so I asked people who already work there and what they did. So I know what I'm doing with Andrew. Although I'm not sure of the actual legislation, I know what Andrew's doing for me is legal. So, you know, I know I'm not breaking the law.
This employer clearly doesn't know the law. At his age, Andrew is not allowed to start so early in the morning. Moreover, milk rounds have recently been forbidden for children. The British government considers this legendary work to be incompatible with school routines, but the decision is difficult to apply in view of the strength of tradition. British child labour legislation dates from 1933. The law differs from town to town, as do the methods of enforcement. Even the inspectors who investigate the problem are by no means experts.
Good afternoon, Mr. Boswell.
Hello, yes.
Hi, Chris Lomas from Wirral Environmental Health Department.
Hello.
Come along this afternoon to carry out a...
His job is to check on
inspection of the
safety
Health
standards for
Work
all
Act
employees,
premises.
including the
I
children.
understand you employ people under the age of 16 for purposes of delivering newspapers.
11 of those.
11 paper boys. Could you just show me that, please?
But Chris Lomas doesn't check the paper boys' ages or hours. It's not his responsibility, but the education department's. Checks and controls are made more complicated by the division of duties among various local offices.
Yep. Just check the contents.
Have you had any accidents with your paper boys in the past?
No. None whatsoever. Or none that we know about.
And yet, 1/3 of working children in Great Britain are victims of an accident at work. Accidents at work, which are never openly declared as such.
We live in the real world, and it's not, we cannot be there at all times. At the end of the day, the responsibility is with the employer. It's not with the local council. My job is to just bring these responsibilities to the employer's attention and making sure as far as possible that he's aware what he should be doing.
More often than not, the employers are not aware, or they quite simply don't care. This is the case with Craig. He is 14 and has been working in the garage every weekend for the past 6 months. This kind of work is strictly forbidden for children of his age. Today is Sunday, and he'll be working about 5 hours. His week is full. Including schoolwork, he puts in about 50 hours a week.
Got school all through the week, and then Saturday and Sunday I'm working, so I don't really get any days to myself where I can just relax.
Is that hard?
It was at first, but I've got used to it now, so it's all right now.
One of Craig's tasks is to help the head mechanic carry out roadworthiness tests. He's very motivated. He would like to be a mechanic when he leaves school. But his wages do not reflect the work he does. Just £10 a day, perhaps more if the workload is particularly heavy.
Do you think you're in the books like any other employees? Or?
No.
Is it too complicated, or is it...
Yeah, it's because they've got all tax and insurance and stuff on top of that, and whereas I'm just getting cash in, and it's a lot easier for the boss to do it like that instead of putting me in the books.
But do you think you're insured then when you work here?
I'm not really sure. I think I would be, because if something happened to me, then it's bound to get insurance on it, yeah.
In many British families like Craig's, part-time work is accepted without too many questions. In fact, he has no insurance cover for the simple reason that he's employed illegally. His mother suspects that the situation is somewhat dubious.
There doesn't appear to be a pay structure, even though he's 14, and I think there should be. And I have asked his boss at times, how much is he being paid, and he was a little bit vague about it.
It's a good deal for the employer, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is. It's a little bit like slave labour, yeah. They get quite a lot of work out of Craig for very little money, but...
And what do you think?
I'm not sure I like it, but I'm not really sure how I can change it.
Perhaps the unions can change things, or at least sound the alarm. But surprisingly, the Trade Union Congress only began tackling the child labour issue at the beginning of the 90s.
In Britain, we've got one of the most flexible, it's a strange word, I think it's basically exploit-ridden market there is. We've got the worst anti-trade union laws in the Western world, so people don't see the necessity or the point of joining the union because the union can't protect them. So the position is that the British market is open for exploitation of everyone, and of course children are the easiest. They've got no mechanism of fighting back. There isn't any unions to join. The trade union movement don't recruit anybody under the age of 16.
Confronted with this confusion and complexity, this man is fighting to provide underage workers with more reliable information. He is responsible for child employment in Stafford, 70 miles from Liverpool.
So just get those out.
Unfortunately, there are barely a dozen such full-time civil servants in the whole of the country, and the task is enormous. 75% of children working in Britain are employed illegally, and children are being used increasingly to do adult jobs.
Let's talk about wages. We're going to have a minimum wage in this country soon. We haven't had one before. We're going to have a new rule that says you must earn so much per hour. But what about children? Who thinks no limit? Yeah, you're right. You're the canny ones. They can pay you whatever they like. When there's a minimum wage for grown-ups, there isn't going to be a minimum wage for children. Then the main reason why they want to give you a job is because you're cheap. And they can pay you £1 an hour, £1.50 an hour, whereas for an adult,
the importance of child labour is largely overlooked, and yet it plays a vital role in the national economy. Certain experts evaluate employers' savings at around £400 million a year.
End of year 11. We think we're safe in this country. We think the problem with child employment is in Turkey or in Spain. We don't think we have a problem in this country.
It's actually not realistic for you to enforce the law.
Yeah, I think this is our fundamental problem, that if we were actually to enforce all these rules and regulations, we would be fantastically unpopular with parents, with every child and young person in the country, with employers, with members of parliament who would get bombarded with letters complaining that we'd stop their children from doing something that they enjoyed doing. I'm okay with that, but I think some of the things that we're prepared to tolerate are exploitive. But we're not clear enough about which ones are unacceptable and which ones really now we could accept are reasonable for the 21st century.
While they wait for mentalities to evolve, Andrew, Craig, Martin and the others continue to work in a climate of general indifference. Great Britain is today one of the European Union countries where child employment is the most widespread. Long-standing Anglo-Saxon traditions make life difficult for international conventions, particularly when the Children's Rights Convention has still not been ratified by the world's leading economic power. How can the United States concern itself with the international child labour issue when it apparently continues to have complete faith in its own legislation?
The general principle is that whether federal or state law applies, whichever is more restrictive is what the employer needs to comply with. There are a range of differences in what the state laws regulating child labor are, but they complement federal law. They don't supplant federal law. So the more restrictive standard, whether federal or state, would apply. And both federal and state governments enforce the child labor provisions across the country.
The legal apparatus would appear to be impeccable, but there are loopholes. And in the southeast United States, the law does not seem to apply. It's 4:30 in the morning in this small Florida town. Time to get up for this Mexican family of seasonal workers. They've been in the USA for 2.5 years now, after paying $1,300 each to get across the border without working papers. A Sunday morning departure to the orange groves, a 15-minute drive away. While the father picks oranges from the treetops, the children pick them up off the ground. Ezekiel is 8 and his sister Daniela is 10. They are used to helping their parents. Little Geronimo is still learning the ropes. Throughout the day, Ezekiel and Daniela carry the 15-kilo buckets to fill the big tubs. Agricultural labourers are paid for what they pick.
What do you find difficult?
transporting the oranges.
Are they heavy?
Quite heavy.
How many hours do you work a day?
I don't know.
Quite a long time?
Quite long.
Do the days seem long?
For me, yes.
Since the birth of her last daughter, the mother should be resting at home, but she comes along to the fields to give the family a hand. The two eldest children have to work even harder to make up for the lost earnings. Ezekiel and Daniela have worked every single day since they arrived in Florida. 4 hours later, Daniela is getting tired, but she's soon called to order. Ezekiel is managing to keep up. At about 12:30, they pause for lunch, for just half an hour.
Is it important for you when the children help like today?
Yes, it's a big help.
What do you mean?
Because we earn more. We can get 1 or 2 more tubs. If I can do 6, when they come, I can do 8. It's an extra amount. That means more money.
At $9 a tub, that means $18 a day more, so the children's work is far from negligible.
Do you like working? Why?
When we work, we make money. We can buy food and things, pay the rent and the light, and we give money to Grandma and Granddad.
The Orange Grove foreman turns a blind eye to the child labor issue.
It's not permitted. It's not possible for the children. Minors aren't accepted for this work. Over 18s, yes, but not minors.
But it's clearly happening everywhere.
Yes.
So why does it go on?
Huh?
Why does it happen if it's forbidden?
What?
The children helping.
I don't know. It depends on the father. I don't know. I don't want to get involved.
Federal law is particularly lenient where agriculture is concerned. A 12-year-old child can work an unlimited number of hours, whereas the minimum age in other sectors is 14. And yet school in the United States is compulsory until the age of 16. Today is a big day for Daniela and Ezekiel. For the first time since they arrived in Florida, they're going to register for school. Classes are not easy for seasonal workers' children. Half of them will leave without any qualifications.
Have you got any papers for the children you want to sign up? Like a birth certificate? Can I see them, please? What class are you in?
She's in 3rd grade.
She's in 3rd grade. Okay, so you speak a little English. Oh, that's good.
47% of the pupils in this school are the children of Hispanic farm workers.
And what kinds of books did you check out?
A lot of books.
Great. Yes. So Ezekiel, do you like to read books? Because this is where you come and check out. And look, we have computers too for you to use here. Ezekiel is going to turn 9 now in a few weeks. He was still 1st grade. That worries me. It's either because he didn't attend school. I know the mother said he had been retained, but he shouldn't be 9 years old in 1st grade. You know, if he had been attending school regularly, he should have been in 2nd grade, at least in 2nd grade by now. So that concerns me, that I don't think they've been in school.
You think they've been missing school to go to work?
Either moving around and not staying anywhere long enough to register in school, or they may have been working.
We want them to study so they don't have to work in the fields like us, so that they can get a job with English. They can learn for themselves. It's up to them.
But their mother also has other reasons for sending Daniela and Ezekiel to school.
My mother says that if we don't go to school, the police will come and take her and my father away because we don't go to school.
But do you like studying? What do you think about going to school? Is it important or not?
Yes, it's important because if the immigration comes, we have to know English. Because if we don't know English, they'll send us back to Mexico.
80% of all American agricultural workers are of Hispanic origin. It's an essential workforce. And yet the seasonal workers are very rarely paid the minimum wage of $5.15 an hour.
Do the children sometimes have to miss school to work more?
When you work in the fields like that, there are times when you earn more or less money, right? So we have them miss school maybe 2 or 3 days a week, and we take them with us. We ask permission with a medical certificate saying they're ill or something like that, and then we take them to the fields.
When you need more money?
Yes, because the wages are very low.
Do you think it's fair that the grown-ups pay so little?
So little money? No.
I want them to pay more.
They should pay more, so we wouldn't have to go to work.
Would you like not to go to work?
Yeah, I'd like that.
Me, no. I want to go to work, but because if we don't go, we get into trouble.
Dan Werner devotes his time to traveling around Florida trying to get the minimum wage respected in agricultural employment.
Good evening. I'm a lawyer. I have some information here about your rights.
He's a member of a lawyers' association which specializes in defending farm workers' rights.
In the citrus industry, there are almost universal violations of federal and state laws.
The major industries which have today replaced the smallholders of the past are apparently beyond the law. Only those companies which still actually own land are sometimes reprimanded, such as Turner Foods, an orange grove owner in Florida.
We sued Turner Foods a couple years ago because they weren't paying the minimum wage. They had many teenagers working for them. I believe my youngest client was 14, and I had several 15-year-old clients and 16-year-old clients. They sold, I believe it was about 57% of their fruit to Tropicana.
So what's the strategy, basically, of all those big companies?
What is the strategy? The strategy is to be as far removed from the workforce as possible and to contract it out as much as possible and just avoid any appearance of involvement.
Tropicana today no longer owns a single orange grove, but all the oranges which arrive at the factory come from Florida. The company buys a quarter of the total state production. In keeping with the company's prestigious image, the American No. 1 prides itself on sending out inspectors to all its suppliers.
They have people go out in the orange groves and check the quality of the orange, make sure it's ready to be picked.
Would you say that they could have a view on whether the contractor they work with is respecting the law as far as employment?
I don't know whether they actually check that or not, but they could see it. I mean, if you had minor children out there picking fruit, they would definitely see it.
The inspections are apparently focused on the quality of the product and ignore the labor issue.
The state of Florida and the state's growers and processors, such as Tropicana, have a zero-tolerance policy towards child labor. It's absolutely against the law, and we work actively with state and federal officials to ensure compliance. In 1998, the Florida Department of Labor conducted or participated in 26 seminars and workshops for growers and farm labor contractors to educate them on Florida's farm labor registration law and provide technical assistance regarding the child labor law. During the past year, the department's investigations totaled nearly 2,300. Less than 0.5% of the investigations reported exceptions to our state's child labor law. The Florida Citrus Board is investigating the French television report. If violations occurred, as always, we will fully support government officials in taking appropriate action.
The number of child workers is high. Some estimates put the number of child farm workers at around 800,000. In total, between 5 and 6 million immigrant and Native American children between the ages of 12 and 17 are working in the USA, and this figure does not include illegal employment. Jerry Hall is a federal labor inspector in Los Angeles. He covers the garment industry for the West Coast.
This is one of the buildings in which we found employees working that appeared to be underage. That was about 2 months ago.
How young were they?
I believe they're around 13, 14, 15. That's the age group that is most commonly that we might find in a shop like this.
Jerry Hall agrees to give us an official visit to some of the downtown workshops. A simple guided tour of some of the places his team is keeping an eye on.
There's a small child right there. See the small child next to the mother? And probably I'm going to say something now because I don't want that. Not that the child's working right now, but the fact that the child's there is not a good idea. It's not illegal, it's just not appropriate. Hi, I'm with the Labor Department, and I'm just a little concerned that this child's in here. I know that the child isn't working, but I'm real concerned about the child being in here. It's not against the law to have the child here, but it is against the law to have the child start doing something, and the child's sitting there, and then the child's going to go, and the mother's going to say, will you get that for me? And she starts picking up the goods and bringing them over to him, and then we're going to say that you violated the law because the kid was helping the mother. So it's just a bad idea, and I know you're trying to be helpful to the parent and say,
one of the employees discreetly sneaks away. Is he under 16, or maybe without papers? He's obviously uncomfortable in the inspector's presence.
There's another kid sitting in the...
How old do you think this kid is?
Probably 10. He's sitting there eating. But
he's not working?
He could have. He's not right now. I'm concerned
the inspector's
about
surprises are not over.
Of Labor,
our guided tour is turning into a fully fledged inspection.
That's over there. Sir, hey. See, this one here doesn't look like he's... What's the name of this employee here, the one that we just saw? What's the name of the employee that was sitting right here? He left very quickly, as you saw, and I wasn't able to catch up with him. And if I'd asked him, obviously he would have told me he was 21 or 18.
So the main problem is to know really what age they are.
To actually get their age.
The situation is made more difficult because identity cards are not compulsory in the States. And indeed, many employees have no papers at all. The employers turn a blind eye. 60% of garment workshops in Los Angeles are breaking the law in one way or another.
There are no time cards here at all for any of these employees.
Here too, a mother has come with her child, clearly too young to work. But a few yards away, one young employee is working.
¿Cuántos años? Huh? 19. You need to make sure that people are the right age. Well, I'm not talking about the little child, but the boy that was sitting there at the machine. You had absolutely no proof of how old he is. You told me he was 19. I asked him. He told me he was 19. I don't believe he's 19, but you have no proof of what age he is.
Yes, I asked him. I always ask him, looks young. When I looks young, so.
But you have to understand that the employee is going to lie to you if he wants a job, and he's younger.
The young boy in question quickly moves away during the conversation.
Everything is not in the social security number here, okay? Everybody, okay?
It's not social security numbers.
Now in here, what angle here, okay? I'm manager, okay?
And we'll be back. We'll have someone come back and work with you on how to fill those forms out.
You understand here?
You have to prove that you have a child labor violation. And so far, we haven't proven a child labor violation. What we see are suspicions of child labor violations, and that's all we're able to do at this point. And that's the frustration that we currently have.
In reality, employers are rarely prosecuted. The labour inspectors must not only prove the working child's age, but also that the employer was aware of it.
Statistically, it doesn't show up very often. If you do 100 shops out of the 5,000 that we do, and you do them randomly, you will not find very many instances of child labor. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist because we have 5,000 shops. It just means that it's not wholesale. The industry is not run by children. We are not using children to get the job done in the United States, but there seems to be children working there.
Since the Free Trade Treaty with Mexico was signed in 1994, the Los Angeles textile industry has moved south. 80% of Mexico's maquilas are to be found near the US border. The maquilas are garment assembly plants, for the most part American-owned. Within her Workers' Defense Committee, Julia Quiñones is leading the fight to assert the Mexican workers' frequently abused rights.
Here
we're in the Ciudad Acuña Industrial Park. There are approximately 67 maquilas here. There are other textile companies. We could mention particularly Cutlers, who make T-shirts for Disney, and others like Macosa, where they make T-shirts in the brand names of Lee and Nike. A lot of young women work in these companies, often very young, I would say from the age of 14. And these companies employ women and girls because they say they're easier to manage, they're more docile.
Such as this young girl, returning to Cutlers after her break, closely watched by the security guards. All the companies that have set up in this region benefit from various advantages. There are no local taxes to pay, and in exchange the companies provide employment. Unions are forbidden in Ciudad Acuña. This decision was taken by the owner of the industrial park. Blanca is 15 years old. She works in the textile trade for Macosa from Monday to Friday. Her weekly wage is $40. Like most of the textile workers, Blanca lives in a nearby shantytown. She left her parents in the countryside 18 months ago. Today she sends them money. She lives with her brother, his wife and their children in a 3-room shack.
No.
Is the work tiring?
Yes, because I have to stand up all day long. All day.
How many hours?
8 or 9 hours.
Are the conditions in the maquilas as you thought they would be?
No.
Why not?
Because you can't come and go. You can't move from where you are, and you have to do just one thing, only one thing. I thought you'd be doing different things.
Is it harder than you thought?
Yes.
In order to get a job before she was legally old enough, Blanca had to falsify her birth certificate.
This is my birth certificate where you can see I was born on the 16th of October, but in 1983. This is the original, and it's written in 1980.
Why did you do that?
To be able to work, because it's not allowed for the under 16s to work, and I had to start working when I was 14.
So you had to fake your birth certificate?
Yes.
Do a lot of people do that?
Most people do it, yes. Or else with someone else's birth certificate. With another name, you can get work at the factory.
What's that?
It's a T-shirt, like the ones I work with.
What job do you do, in fact?
I check that there's no defects anywhere on the T-shirt, and we check the labels. This one hasn't got one, but they have labels like these. It might be this one or that one.
What are the labels?
Nike labels.
What other brands are there?
The other one is Lee.
Those are the brand names that you work for.
That I work for, yes. They're the two main brands in the factory.
So children are working in Mexico for some of the biggest American companies. Nike and Lee both claim to respect the current legislation and confirm that hiring is based on the various documents that are presented. We asked Blanca to show us the exact task that she performs at the factory.
That's it.
How long does it take to do that?
About a minute or a bit more.
But you have to do it very quickly.
Yes, because there's a lot of t-shirts to check.
How many?
We have to do 77 dozen a day.
Is that a lot or is it possible?
It's possible.
924 T-shirts for just $8.
Are there a lot of girls your age?
Yes. Most of the ones I know are under 16.
Julia Quiñones visits the young girls regularly to keep them informed of their rights. Today, a number of adolescents from around the neighborhood have come to Blanca's. All of them began working at the age of 14 in textiles or electronics.
So we'll start another meeting to talk about what's going on at the factory and see if there are any problems.
They made me work during the holidays, but they didn't record it and I wasn't paid.
No, but you have to claim it. I think they'll have to pay. Imelda, is this the first year you're taking a vacation?
Yes.
According to the law, you can't work during the holidays. If they make you work during the holidays and they pay you, you can do it. But you have to claim your holiday time afterwards, because you've worked all year, and so you need time to take a break. And how are they treating you? Why do they employ so many young girls?
Well, it's probably because they need us to work. They can see that the younger ones can work better.
They've got more energy.
Yes, they've got more strength for working and more time.
And there aren't any problems with children. And that is a problem with married women.
Yes, they can't do overtime because they have to go and pick up their children from the nurse. But for unmarried people like us, it's not a problem. We can stay.
Would you say that without underage labor, the maquilas wouldn't be able to operate?
I think so, yes, because there are a lot of people who work before they're 15 or 16.
The Workers' Border Committee has done a lot to prevent the abuses, so that the laborers and the maquilas workers can change things, change working conditions. But it's very difficult to do anything with the minors who need to work. The committee doesn't agree that minors should be employed, but they need the work, so we can't do a lot in such cases.
It's 9:30 in the evening. Blanca's brother has just returned from the factory after 14 hours in a maquila which makes electronic components for the American automobile market. As for Blanca, she has had to forget about her studies. She can't even afford classes at the weekend.
Is it hard for you to accept that you can't study?
Yes, it is. It's difficult because I wanted to do something more at the factory and not just the same thing all the time. I mean, if I continued school, I could be one of the office girls with the computers or whatever. But I can't because I haven't studied enough.
But you hope to be able to do that later, maybe?
I really wish I could do it later. I don't know when, but yes, a bit later.
And it's difficult to have to accept that you can't study as you would like.
Yes, it's hard, because I've always had the ambition of succeeding, of being something in life, but I haven't been able to do that yet.
What's your goal in life?
To be a secretary.
It's a dream that Blanca fully intends to realize, but for the moment, she lives from day to day without thinking too much about the future. Between 8 and 11 million children like Blanca are working in Mexico today. How many other millions of children are working around the globe for the Western world's major companies? With globalization, child labor from the poorer countries is playing in the wealthy country's backyard. This situation is blatantly clear in the Philippines, where the country survives on an industrial drip feed. Without the presence of Western multinationals and their cheap labor, especially child labor, the country would be bankrupt. The Philippines ratified and signed the International Children's Rights Convention in September 1990 under the Cory Aquino regime. In 1998, out of the Philippine archipelago's 74 million inhabitants, 3,700,000 children were working, from the age of 7 up to 18. International law is not respected here, not even the International Labour Office Declaration, which authorises the hiring of a 15-year-old as long as the work is not detrimental to his or her development. But in the Philippines, 2,200,000 children are doing extremely dangerous jobs, cutting sugarcane, diving for fish, or making fireworks. Like many Asian countries, the Philippines export extensively. The main customers are the USA and Japan. Here, everything is for sale. Dollars, merchandise, cheap labor. Thousands of tiny hands which never rebel. The minimum wage for a child in the Philippines is $4 a month, for between 12 and 20 hours work a day. Marilyn Valenciano is 29. She represents the Kamalayan Development Foundation, an organization seeking to help and protect children from the child labor market.
To be honest, businessmen in the Philippines don't know about the Children's Rights Convention. They're only interested in seeing their profits grow. Children follow orders more easily. They don't protest. Whereas the adults form unions. And because the children don't complain, the convention isn't applied.
Kahit meron man tayong CRC convention, hindi gaanong nasusunod.
Marilyn regularly seeks out young workers who have managed to escape from their jobs. Today she's hearing the story of a 16-year-old girl.
Hello.
Good morning. Are you Cheryl?
Ako si Marlene.
I'm Marilyn from the Kamalayan Association. And who are you?
Miro.
What do you do over there?
Packaging, others do sewing or labeling.
May mga sewer.
What products do you make?
Nike, Giordano,
and some toys.
How many hours a day do you work?
16 hours.
16 hours.
Do you sometimes do more?
May lumalampas.
Sometimes that happens, yes.
How much longer?
Kasi umpisa na alas 8.
We start at 8 in the morning
until
2 o'clock.
Yes.
Madaling araw.
Sometimes until dawn.
Are there other children like you at the factory?
There are others who are 14, 15, and 16.
Do you suffer any physical or verbal abuse?
They just insult us.
They only insult you?
Yes, if we make a mistake, even a small one.
What's the punishment if you make a mistake?
You get a report saying that you can't go out for a week or 2.
Do you live there or not? At the factory or outside?
Yes, we live there.
You live there? Where do you sleep?
In a small room. There are 6 of us and we sleep on cardboard without even a mat.
Walang banig. Yan ang
That's the factory
Imperial Garments na
where I work.
factory na pinagtatrabahan ko.
That's where we make things
ang
for
ginagawa namin dyan sa loob ay
Giordano,
ang Giordano t-shirt,
Giordano
and
t-shirts,
Nike t-shirt,
and Nike
short.
t-shirts and shorts.
Natatakot ako, baka
I'm afraid they
makilala nila.
recognize me.
Why don't you look out of the window?
Natatakot ako na
I'm afraid that they
na
might
baka
recognize
makilala
me
nila ako
and that I'd have problems.
at magkaroon ng problema.
What kind of problem?
That they find out
na
I've been
ako'y nagsumbong
complaining to certain people. I'm scared of getting into
sa
trouble.
ibang tao.
That they might come to my house and make me work again.
Puntaan nila ako sa bahay at i-arrange nila ako.
Alex Saput is a lawyer and president of the Kamalayan Development Organization. He's been fighting child labor exploitation for 10 years now and frequently has to confront the Filipino government's laxity.
The government must provide education for everyone, education for all children,
Education for all children.
especially poor children and working children. It's essential to get them out of the plantations and the factories and back into school, because that's the best place for them.
Pabrika at ibalik sa paaralan dahil doon ang kanilang
An hour's flight south of Manila is the Visayas archipelago. This is the location of the country's biggest sugarcane plantations. 630 7 to 17-year-olds work here. The main crops in the Philippines are sugarcane, rice, and coconuts. This is kilometer 14, a village belonging to one of the region's largest haciendas. Here, everybody lives off the sugarcane. There are 84 children in the village. 33 of them work on the plantation. It's 4:30 in the morning at kilometer 14 and the village is waking up. The Devoción family is made up of Jaime, the father, Leticia, the mother, and 6 children. Bernard is 14 and has been working with sugarcane since he was 12. 6 days a week, he gets up at dawn. These school-age children can't study because there's no money for it. Their ages range between 7 and 14. The foreman announces the departure at 5 a.m. It takes half an hour to walk to the place they work. Before cutting the cane, the workers have to weed around the plants. It's hard work. The children are constantly bent double. They are in this position for 10 hours. Rio is 12 and the youngest of 3 children.
How old were you when you started working with the sugarcane?
She asked how old you were when you started working.
9.
Don't you go to school?
No.
What class were you in when you stopped?
First grade.
First grade?
Yes, because we're poor.
Do you find your job hard?
Rio doesn't reply. Like all the children on the plantation, Rio earns 20 cents a day for 11 hours of work. He gives the money to his parents.
Do you think it's normal that a child like you has to start work at 9 years old?
No.
Why not?
Because of the work every day. We're often ill. And we only have 1, 2, or 3 days to rest.
Do you think there are poor children in Europe and the United States who work like you?
Pati doon sa Amerika, sa Europa. Tanan ba nga mga batang kabus ay nagatrabaho katulad
I've got
mo?
no idea. I don't know how they live. What I do know is that our life here is very tiring. We're always in the sun, and it's very hot. And we can never have a rest. We always have to be working. Today, I just want to go to school.
Why is that?
When I'm bigger, I won't be able to get a job because I've got no education.
Marites Devoción is 13. Her father is a foreman on the plantation, and she's been working alongside him since she was 9. But Marites has a dream.
A nurse.
Why
a nurse?
To look after sick children and important people.
Like Rio, Marites makes 20 cents a day, not even enough to buy a hamburger.
I give my money to my parents.
Don't they give you anything?
Yes, sometimes they give me 10 cents. 10 cents a week.
How do you spend your money?
I buy something to eat.
Lunch break is at 1 o'clock, and everybody returns to the village. Another 4-kilometer walk. Marites has a single bowl of rice, which she shares with her younger sister. They have 1 hour to rest. Marites is exhausted and falls asleep on the ground. There are no beds here, no water, and no electricity. When they set off back to the plantation, children and parents alike are just as tired. The afternoon temperature is 30 degrees, and there's 97% humidity. The heat is unbearable. The children work another 3 hours under the blazing sun. With the heat and the exhaustion and lack of care, accidents are not uncommon, with deadly snake bites, machete cuts, and arms and legs lacerated by the sugarcane leaves. 12-year-old Ricky knows this only too well, even if his wound is only superficial.
I hurt myself with a machete. I hit myself on the leg like that, accidentally.
How do you treat it?
With coconut.
Just like Rio and Marites, Ricky too would prefer a rather different future.
You know, I'd really like to stop working as a day laborer. The work's much too hard. You can see that it's much too hot here. And we spend all day cutting and weeding around the cane. We have to do that all the time, and we can never rest.
What kind of work would you like to do?
Taxi driver.
My children tried to help me. Maybe it's normal, but I would rather that they went to school. It would have been better. As parents, we have to try and guide our children for when they have a family, just so that they don't make the same mistakes we made in that they send their children to school. It's important, so they can have a better future. We mustn't make the same mistakes.
Kahit hindi tayo nakapag-aral, yung mga bata man lang ang mabigyan ng magandang kinabukasan.
Correcting mistakes such as these is today a priority for Pakistan. The country has been singled out for criticism for many years, and bad press has led to a guilty conscience. Child labour is still rife, but the efforts of the Pakistani authorities, allied to the vigilance of various international organisations, has created hope for several of the country's regions. Working children must now also have basic schooling.
I have to be optimistic, because it is
a problem affecting 50% of our people who are children. And therefore we will ensure that our children get the best deal possible in the future. We have had considerable success. We are still engaged in a big challenge in Pakistan, and we are hopeful that with continued commitment on the part of all the segments of our society, and with the support, I hope, of the international community, that we will succeed in achieving our goals.
Pakistan signed and ratified the International Children's Rights Convention in November 1990. School is not compulsory in Pakistan, but in any case the infrastructure is not available. Just 13 out of 36 million children are fortunate enough to go to school. 3.5 million children between the ages of 5 and 18 work in the streets, in the carpet industry, in brick factories, or as servants. In the Sialkot region near the Indian border, 7,000 7 to 14-year-olds are employed to make footballs. In an attempt to end this exploitation, the International Labour Office has set up a program to protect and rehabilitate the children.
It was basically initiated in response to quite a lot of media pressure which was being done in this industry, and there was a fear that this industry will have to wind up if corrective actions are not taken to stop and eliminate child labor from this industry. In the social protection, we are trying to provide opportunities to those who have been involved in stitching, the kids who have been involved in stitching, to provide them opportunities for education, and that is in the form of formal and non-formal education.
Since 1977, the International Labour Office has set up 154 education centres in the Sialkot area for around 3,000 children, mainly in the province's more isolated villages, where there were previously no schools. This is Randir, with a population of 25,000. Since April 1998, 70 children have been coming here to learn to read and write. Before that, they worked at home all day, stitching footballs. Razia is 15 and has 8 brothers and sisters. The long-term aim of the education centres is to put an end to child labour. In the meantime, Razia attends school in the morning and helps her family in the afternoon sewing the footballs. $5 hours a day to stitch 1.5 footballs for just over $4.
Wouldn't you like some free time to play? Do you have any time to have fun?
No.
You don't have any free time? Don't you want to play with the doll like the other girls?
At school. I can at school.
What would you like to be when you grow up?
A doctor.
Her older sister Rahana wants Razia to continue her schooling.
We want her to study and to learn a job so that she can become someone, like a doctor or something else. In sending her to school, we told ourselves that she would only work in her spare time and that we'd cut down on our needs and work more. Of course we're in need, but we hope that their situation will be better by going to school and things will improve for them. The parents are poor, but it's their duty to see that their children aren't in need. They must study to become doctors, teachers or whatever, and find jobs that will enable them to make it, and maybe one day set up their own business.
75% of the world's footballs are produced in Sialkot. Almost 40 million hand-sewn balls are exported every year. In February 1997, an agreement was signed between the International Labour Office, UNICEF, and the Sialkot Chamber of Commerce, in which the town's industries made a commitment not to employ children under the age of 14 in their factories. They also agreed to regular inspections and checks from ILO personnel. Ali is one of the inspectors and is checking that the agreements are being respected.
We are not acting over here like inspectors. We're just over here to have a change in the stitchers, just to encourage them to tell us about the child labor. If there is any child labor working over here, they should inform us. They should come forward. We want to work jointly with them and to let them explain that both of us should help the child labor.
We didn't go to the government for the solution of the problem. It was the collective decision of the industry itself that we jointly move to overcome the problem. So in this way we can say that we are the pioneer, because I don't think that in the private sector or on the private initiative anywhere in the world this such a problem has been taken up for resolution and solution.
If certain industrialists have decided to combat child labour, not everyone is participating. Out of Sialkot's 95 football factories, only 35 take part in the ILO's programme. There are between 7,000 and 10,000 children in the football industry and 30,000 in the carpet trade. It's a booming business which brings in almost $6 million a year in exports. Once again helped by various businesses, the International Labour Office has been able to set up 15 schools in the Lahore region for children manufacturing carpets. The Sharif Pura School in a poor district of Lahore was created in 1996. 60 pupils aged 7 to 14 come here for 3 hours morning study. Before 1996, these children were working full-time, 10 or even 12 hours a day, making carpets. When school's finished, the Shafir family go home. 4 family members work all day. It takes them 10 months to make one large carpet. 10 months for just over $1,000.
My parents were poor too. They couldn't pay for our education, and so we never went to school. And if we hadn't been given these facilities, we wouldn't have been able to send our children to school either. They're studying now. Before, none of the children went to school.
Do you think education is important?
Yes, education is very important.
Why?
Because we didn't study, and so we can't do anything else. We can't get a job in an office. We can't even write our own names. We can't do anything. That's why our children will learn something. They will learn good manners. If they want to teach later, they'll be able to. Being educated is useful even in daily life, at every moment in your life.
Do you think that when your children grow up, they'll want to weave carpets or do something else?
No, they won't make carpets. They'll do something else. We'll steer them to other fields because we're fed up with this too. It's sick. Our son is ill from working too much on the carpets. He's got problems with his eyes. As soon as it gets dark, he can't see anymore. We're hoping to get him out of this when we find another solution.
The hard work stops only for evening prayers. In these poor areas of Lahore, religion is the only escape, and school the only way to progress.
It is a time-taking process when you have to bring a social change. It's not easy. Because on the one hand, you're providing opportunities, but on the other hand, you're trying to change minds and thinking of people. And that's a time-taking process. But what we hope is that approximately in about 5 years' time, we'll be able to curb this issue in complete and totality.
If 3.5 million children in Pakistan have been recorded as being workers, there remain 19 million unrecorded. Children, for the most part, abandoned, fending for themselves, living, eating and sleeping in the streets. In Portugal, the Children's Rights Convention was ratified in 1990. In the Braga region, 1 year later, we filmed a number of children who were working to help their families, a clear infringement of the legislation. One of them, yesterday and today, speaks out for the hundreds of millions of children that have been sacrificed around the world.
This was where I started my career at the age of 11. I needed to work. At that time, there was a printing works, but it was too small and they needed bigger premises and moved away. I worked here, but had to leave my job because the wages weren't high enough. I've no regrets, even though I started work so young, at 11. It was here that I learned about life, and I got used to it all very quickly.
Pedro worked Monday to Friday at this printer's. At that time, a boss could hire children from the age of 14. Pedro was 30. Every day he had a 10-kilometer bike ride back home to a one-room lean-to with an earth floor and a family of 8 children. The father was often ill and only rarely able to find work. Pedro looked after his family's needs alone.
I start work at 8 and stop at 12. Start again at 2 and finish at 8 in the evening.
Do you think it's normal to work?
I think it would be better to go to school.
Why?
To study. Just study.
Is it important?
Yes.
So why don't you go to school?
Because I've got to work. I don't know.
Does your employer know you're under 14?
He knows.
How do you see your future? What do you hope for in life?
I don't know.
I had to face the harsh realities of life very early. It was useless to dream. I don't have any dreams. And even if I wanted to, I couldn't. I had such a hard life at such an early age that it took away any desire to dream.
Now aged 22, Pedro earns $350 a month in a textile factory. 9 years on, he's still living with his family.
As you can see, in 9 years, nothing in the house has changed. This is my bedroom. When it rains, the water comes in through all the holes you can see there. And you can see that my bedroom is horrible. When winter comes, the water will be coming in every single hole in the wall. I don't know what we could call it, but it's not a house, it's a hovel. I'd love to be able to give the family something better, a decent home with electricity, running water, and all the facilities that this hasn't got. I'm sure certain animals have got better houses than this. We're poor. We're rejected. In 9 years, nothing has been done.
At 36 years old, Linda Pereira is Pedro's mother, and after 9 years is still dependent on her children.
Which of your 8 children helped the most at home?
The ones that work, because they bring home what they earn.
What would happen without them?
Without them, we die of hunger. I had to take them all out of school, Pedro, as well as the others, so that they can earn some money to pay for what we needed, to feed their father, and their mother, and their younger brothers.
Linda has 2 sons and 2 daughters still at school. Miguel wants to be a teacher.
Do you think the 4 children still at school are more privileged than the others?
As soon as they're 14, they'll work too. At least the 2 boys. The girls will go to school, but I'll take them out as soon as I can, because I can't afford to keep them in school until they're 16. No way.
Even Miguel, who wants to be a teacher?
No. As soon as he's 14, he'll leave school. What I did to the others, I'll do to them all. I don't want the others to be saying later, we have to leave school at 14 to go to work, and the others, because they're the last, get special treatment. No, I don't want that. The first children had to leave school at 14, and the last ones will too.
I don't think it's right. There are 3 of us working, and 1 doing his military service. She could have let them stay on in school. We would have made an effort to deal with the money problem. Getting them out of school aged 14 with a junior school education isn't going to help their futures. They might get a job in construction or farming, but a first-grade level isn't worth a thing these days.
Gloria and Miguel attend school in Orgés. Education up to the age of 15 has been compulsory in Portugal since 1997. There are 1,000 students at this college, and as is the case in many other schools around Braga, at least 15% of them won't finish the school year. Most of them will start working just to help their families survive. Accompanied by the school director, we met one of the teachers who often has to face this situation.
Eu não posso dizer assim dados concretos, mas penso que grande parte dos alunos, à volta de 20% dos students won't make it to the end of the year. Geralmente vão trabalhar, portanto, o trabalho infantil é proibido por lei, mas continua a existir casos graves de trabalho infantil. Muitas vezes trabalham em casa, sem que os fiscais se apercebam, ou então mesmo dentro de fábricas. Só quando os fiscais aparecem, realmente não dão, os meninos são escondidos e muitas vezes não se encontram.
Portugal has been a member of the European Union since 1986, and yet the legal employment age was only raised from 14 to 16 in 1997. One step towards conformity. But statistics show that 200,000 children are still working on building sites, in textile factories, or at home. Child labour is something Pedro knows only too well. His lost and wasted childhood is forever etched in his memory.
I feel it like a pain inside of me. A very sharp pain that's hard to heal. It's very difficult being poor. Not everyone is capable of surviving such an ordeal. It's really very, very hard.
Maybe you'll get married one day, What do you imagine for your future family?
Of course, I want to have a family with a wife and a child and give him what's best. Everything I can. As I said, I don't want him to live what I've been through. I'm still young. I'm only 22, but I've already got a painful and miserable past behind me. I don't want that for my child.
There is no convention on earth that can restore their sacrificed youth to Pedro and to millions of others. 10 years ago, 161 countries agreed on a convention proclaiming that children should be protected from abusive exploitation at work. The prescription exists, but the cure still has to be found.